Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? Because we've went to Ibrox and we've drawn one each in the final Glasgow Derby, a game that coming into it, we were hoping for a monumental result. We were hoping for a bookend performance to the season, kind of right the wrongs of some of the derbies that have went so far this year, and give the star players that we've had this season that have had amazing years this year, it must be said, over, by and large throughout the squad, an opportunity to really write the headlines and really, put their name on the victories that we've had this season, the progression that we've seen. And I think we would all agree the draw doesn't really scratch that itch. And in the video today, we're going to break down really what we've seen from Celtic, the good, the bad, the ugly, the match ratings, and, everything else in between it. But the aftermath of this game, as we zoom out to it to come into the video, Rangers have now not won 7 home games in a row, which is a club record for them. Celtic are on the verge of, fingers crossed we go and get the job done, of course, 9th historic treble on top of a 55th league title. And this was a derby match that we came into quite under strength, a number of key players missing, of course, down to recent injuries, as well as, some other situations that we'll speak about when we get into the video. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And as always, guys, jump into the comment section of this one and let me know your big takeaways, your thoughts and feelings after watching the final derby match of the year as we march on towards securing the treble, of course. And let's just get stuck straight into it, because we've done a good wee bit of previewing coming into this one in terms of what to expect from Rangers and, what Celtic need to think about in terms of how we construct the team and the battle plan coming into this one. And, from the previews to the actual game that we've seen, there was so many things that were like unforeseen and obvious all at the same time. So it's hard to kind of find a word to kind of sum that up. We knew Adam Idah was going to play. We knew that likely meant Daizen Maeda was going to play on the left-hand side, of course. We knew Alistair Johnston wasn't going to be in the team, so it would be Ralston. And yeah, there was maybe some question marks over some of the other defensive positions, Scales, Taylor, Trusty, Schlupp, that kind of thing. But the midfield as well was quite obvious how it was going to lay out here. And in terms of unforeseen, 100% when it came to the starting 11s and the shapes for both teams, James Forrest starting the game and no Nicholas Kuhn in the squad was definitely a huge unforeseen, I think, for anyone coming into this game as a fan, as an observer, and definitely gave a different dimension, a different dynamic into the game overall, kind of psychologically and actually on the pitch itself. But for Rangers, I did not expect them to come out in this game and play 4 at the back, 4-3-3 as it were, and I think this was a really good decision by Neil McCann to change the Rangers squad up for this one and kind of alter the tactics a little bit, because by adding Bajrami into their starting 11, it gave them the same kind of strengths that they've been relying upon, really for forever, but also gave them a little bit of that development that we've kind of seen from them in the derbies over this season. Now, this was a game of quite a few chances, especially in the early stages of the first half. I did think the refereeing wasn't terrible, but there was so many, you just needed to see McGregor and Dyson's reactions to some things that they were getting penalised for, that either he was letting Rangers away with, or were just never free kicks in the first place. So the game was quite stop-start. There was the potential for it to be quite a quick opening, with the masked Balogun back from another cheekbone fracture, crashing a header off the post. I don't think either team really did a good job of holding on to the ball for more than 3 or 4 passes for the most part, and kind of building out play. It felt like almost every attack, certainly for us, if we were on the ball and we were trying to actually get some possession going and build something out, was we were going to the right hand side so often. And the great thing about Forrest, right, is that he's very good on the ball, he uses the ball well, he can go really wide, he's got great dexterity and is quite nippy. At his age at the moment, you'd probably say over 5-10 yards, but I just didn't feel he had much confidence of doing hefty, of actually taking him on the dribble, taking him down the line for a run, actually getting by him and making something happen in here. And for the amount of opportunities we spent in the first half, coming down the right hand side here, it really amounted to nothing overall. So it meant the best chances that we had were, again, kind of similar to, I forget what the match was, but we had a good series of balls from the likes of Engels getting sprayed a little bit higher up the pitch, a little bit further forward to maybe somebody like Hatate or even Adam Idah. Because off the ball, when we were pressing, we would be more akin to a 4-4-2. Hatate was much higher up in the pitch, and to say Forrest was a lot more conservative than normally we see the likes of Kuhn or whoever else has played on the right hand side for us. And Dyson, in the first half, wasn't particularly active. I don't think we really put him on the ball enough or really looked for him enough, but the majority of chances were playing through the midfield with the ball rather than actually some build-up play and having players kind of progress up the pitch, as it were. So turnover of the ball was quite a lot in the first half for me. And although Connor Barron didn't really seem to do too much from, my recollection of the match and then kind of watching it back, you really did feel all across the pitch guys like Diamande, Raskin, I'd probably put Hefty into that category as well. There was enough of them doing like a job and a half or doing like 2 jobs in this game, and you really felt their presence all the way through the game. And I think, like, that in these derbies, it's about that presence. It's about that, who's getting on the ball, who's making things happen, who's winning their tackles, winning their duels, and controlling the tempo of the game. And I think for the most part, when we were coming out with defence, like we were quite comfortable, we were quite capable. But there was some moments from Taylor, from Ralston, I'd maybe even say Forrest, but a few of the guys like throughout the game, especially in the first half, there would be some moments where they maybe almost switched into autopilot for 1 second and tried to play a blind pass into somewhere, and it would just get intercepted and Rangers would go on the front foot, try and put a cross in or get a shot away somehow, that sort of thing. And when the ball gets turned over so often like that, it then does become a game of duels. It does become a game of 1v1s, of 50-50s, that sort of thing. And so many of their players, like I say, the tactics from Neil McCann in this game were pretty spot on. They used the good spaces to keep themselves as a threat the entire time. They were really good at kind of just being a coiled spring, ready to kind of burst out and go. I never really seen, Tavernier was doing all right getting up the right hand side, but he wasn't like as ever bombing on self. He was much more kind of conservative in this game, and it was more Hefty that they pushed a lot further forward. They kind of focused a little bit more down this side of the pitch, you could maybe say as well. And with them being at home and, like Barry Ferguson on the touchline with the pom-poms out and everything as well, doing the old cheerleading act, they did get some moments in this game where they would put us into our own half, certainly being at home for them. And that was the first kind of moment of the match that came for us. We get the ball kind of breaking the line, Seddon and Amida on what starts off essentially on the dots or whatever as a 1v2, but quickly gets some great support from Dyson. And that's basically where our first opportunity comes from in this game, where we get the ball from deep, feeding through into Engels, who's at the beginning kind of got a 1v1 here with Balogun. Suter is recovering alongside Dyson, quickly getting into the picture as well with another defender recovering behind him, and James Forrest. And Adam Ida here, like, this is one of those moments where, as the striker, as the lead man of the attack, this has to be a sequence, this has to be something that is well rehearsed, well worked on, and executed perfectly. And, when you're in this situation of defenders backpedaling and, scrambling back in to recover and defend the castle, as it were, when you've got these numbers, this is a gilt-edged chance. This is a huge opportunity in the game. And ultimately, I think he picks the right choice trying to play in Forrest, because I do think, like, the right ball, and that's really the problem here, is the ball goes in front of Forrest, but it's just a little bit too close to the defender, and Forrest can't really get a touch on it, and obviously the chance kind of breaks down from there. But Dyson Maeda, if Ida was a little bit more comfortable, confident, whatever at passing, maybe the Dyson chance becomes a little bit better. But I do think that was the harder pass of the two to pull off, and I think he was just a bit off with feeding Forrest in here. And this was an opportunity that went a-begging, sadly, and really should have been, for me, the opening goal of the game, because a breakaway like this, when you're playing with supporting players on the outside of the centre backs, like, you've got so much space to play into, or even while they're all backpedaling, and if you get a sight of goal, it's a great place to take a long shot from as well. And for it to fizzle out the way it did was a huge disappointment for how tight the match was in those early spells, because the first goal is so important. But you felt like our tails got up at that point, and really I think the mobility of our midfield was the main thing that really made us a threat throughout the first half here, because our midfielders were just a lot more capable of, like, going box to box and being everywhere else, whereas the Rangers formation is kind of more set up to be positionally savvy, because for pace and recovery and, like, transition, we were just getting into better spaces in them a lot quicker, and we can move the ball so quickly that, if a space did open up for, like, Engels to fire the ball into Dyson, who's then in the box, and I think, again, he does the perfectly right thing by setting Ida up for the shot. Again, sadly, it goes a-begging. But when we're starting to go up the gears, we're starting to find those openings, and you could see, like, the training ground moves, as it were, we're starting to kind of come into the play. But while it's still in the balance at 0-0, it's still like everything's on tenterhooks. There's not too much commitment. There's not, and again, in this kind of derby situation, of course, it's maybe a bit more conservative for the most part, but it was still very much, on a knife edge, and it really did feel that the tension kind of got broken in a weird way with that Raskin goal when it went in, because although they hit the crossbar and we've had some good chances, the first time the ball actually hits the net and the stadium erupts, it feels like, for me, it's the kind of a bit of the air is taken out of the suspense or the tension. It's kind of hard to put into words what I mean. Thankfully, it gets VAR ruled off, and I think this is the one thing that every Celtic fan should always remember when it comes to hatred of VAR, is it does save us, and it does save anyone from like just bang out goals, like it's offside or it was a blatant or whatever. And yeah, we can talk about the other ones, the other decisions that happened just generally across the league another time. Right after that, we get a corner. Carter Vickers gets a header off the crossbar, and that's brilliant to see as well, because we've been kind of harping on this channel for the centre backs to get more goal contributions, to actually be a threat in the box. But again, not too long thereafter, we're then faced with the Adam Idah 1v1, and this chance that he gets, like, I don't know why. I think he wants to lift it over the goalkeeper rather than trying to play it around him, smashing the back of the net or whatever. I think it was a poor pass, a poor shot selection here from Idah, and this was on top of the other chance he's missed and the 1v1, but he's not played the right pass. It was like the third thing, and for the relative terms of the match, quite quick succession where he's just came up short. And you did feel like, I was at the Axom fan event at Barra's Art and Design. It was very, very good. Highly recommend it. And I suspect it would have been the same across living rooms all over the world, where there was a bit of a come on Adam Idah vibe now kind of building around the match itself. And the sorest thing about this is, after the 1v1 gets missed, they counter-attack, and essentially they get like the exact same chance where they've had some build-up play, and they then send their striker 1v1 with a centre-back to then get a shot on goal. And Dessers does absolutely brilliant, comes on the outside of the play here to get inside with Scales, and the ball, is it from Diamande? It just gets fizzed across the defence here. This is a much harder chance to pull off. Dessers does very good, all credit to him, before finishing. A much harder chance, I would say, than what Adam Idah just did, and that kind of starkly contrasts the first half contributions of both of them. Adam Idah feels a lot more present, a lot more active, but not quite taking the chance, whereas in Dessers, I think that's almost the first thing he did in the first half. Gets half a chance, uses his strength, stays composed, and takes it ultimately. And at that point, you're thinking, is this like deja vu all over again? Because all over the pitch, like, I think McGregor in the first half, him and Raskin were having a good kind of battle, as it were, throughout the game. We normally see Diamande and Hatate being a bit more combative with one another, but Diamande being on the other side of the pitch here with Engels. And it must be said, Raskin did feel like he was trying to get in Engels' ear a little bit as well and go 50-50 with him at set pieces and whatever. But it didn't feel overly like, because Hatate was more in this zone more often, and was kind of just getting away from them whenever he wanted. Hatate almost had a cigar on in this game. If he'd actually won the game for us, pulled an assist or a goal off or anything like that, his performance in this game again would probably be remembered a little bit better, because he just didn't put a foot wrong. He was super cool and calm and composed. McGregor and Engels, as I say, did have varying success in this, but let's say Czerny, Raskin, Diamande, they were all very much felt in the first half, and whenever they were on the ball, things were happening, the ball was moving forward, and we were having to cope and deal with them. And Czerny will feel unlucky, the way the games obviously went for him. Now, when we get to half time, my kind of main thoughts and takeaways were, like, Engels wasn't really giving us anything in midfield. Like I say, with Raskin, Diamande, even Bayrami as well, who again didn't really do much, but you feel his presence whenever he's near the ball. He's a capable kind of jeweler, tackler, and he is like a forward player, so he's capable when on the ball to try and do something and play it to a teammate. So quite a dangerous kind of pressing player, as it were, although he didn't really do much ultimately. But without Engels like putting his foot down and really grabbing any of these situations properly by the scruff of the neck, as it were, they were coming down this side of the pitch far too often, and between the players who were out here, they weren't doing enough to stop it. And even when we were going on the ball ourselves on this side of the pitch, like I say, Ralston wasn't particularly bad or great or anything like that, but Engels, without playing a kind of slicing ball from deep or anything like that, or Forrest, like again, like Forrest in these zones here is really good because it's all about possession play and maybe trying to find someone else with it. But whenever Forrest was much higher up the pitch or had space to take, he couldn't or wouldn't take it, so I felt that there was a huge kind of, like, I was saying at half time, do we maybe bring on Yang and Bernardo right now and just like because those guys will put their legs in where it gets hurt. They'll really get in amongst, throw the cat in amongst the pigeons, as it were, and maybe try and lift the tempo. We didn't make any changes at half time, which is fine. It's not a usual thing for us to do. But we did have a bit of a different game plan. It felt like right from the off in the second half, and ultimately this is where the goal comes from, but we were trying to play down the left-hand side a lot more. We were trying to go back to our strengths rather than just following the path of the game, the pattern of play as it was evolving, and trying to play down our right, there, and left. We were deliberately, it felt like, putting a lot more onus, a lot more focus on trying to get Dyson on the ball and trying to play down this side of the pitch here. Ultimately, it's where the goal comes from. Dyson gets sent down the channel here, does brilliantly to make everything of it he does, and we get a little bit of that throwback Thursday, a little bit of that old Dyson where he doesn't actually play a cross in. He doesn't actually get a good chance away here. He's just up there with it. A bit of chaos happens. It comes off the backside of his leg or something like that from a clearance. Adam Idah picks it up. And, Adam Idah had a huge IOU from the first half that he had to do something here. And this goal very much makes up, I think, for at least 1.5 of the opportunities in the first half where he's alert enough to get off of being like trying to be there for the cross, to come back out to this position here, being really alert and on his toes, to then get the ball, move away from goal, back to goal as well, swing and take a shot. Now, the deflection does ensure it's a goal. I don't think the goalkeeper would have got it anyway, but the ball rising, the deflection takes the ball down and totally kills the keeper who's diving, But I thought that was a great finish from Idah, and it's kind of like what I was saying, or what I always say when it comes to Adam Idah. You just know, we know he can score in derby matches, we know he can score in Europe, and that kind of is all he needs to do. But with the 3v2 thing earlier on, and a few different sessions of actual play, his passing is so one-dimensional. It's definitely needing worked on, and it is something that did hold us back in this match, it must be said. But that chance, that goal was brilliant, and I really felt a bit of a lift here. That Celtic are now going to go into the ascendancy. Not too long after the goal, we do lift it a gear. We make that double sub that I thought could have happened at half time. Yangan comes on at the right, and Engels comes off for O Bernardo. And I don't think this surprised anyone at all, especially looking at the Celtic bench. We didn't have a terrible amount of options here, but it felt like O Bernardo came a lot deeper as well. O Bernardo was sitting much more in the 6 as play kind of balanced out. Now, he was kind of in this zone a few times, don't get me wrong, but in open play, McGregor had a bit more leash to go on and play, and Hatate was his usual attacking midfield self, But Bernardo came on here, and I really did feel it from Bernardo and Yang. You know where they are all the time. They're always on the front foot. They're always trying to go forward with the ball. Bernardo can play those kind of build-up passes, don't get me wrong, but generally in open play, when there is space to take, these guys are just on the page. They're reading from the same hymn book that the manager in the style of play needs here. And Yang is a bit more adventurous when he comes on. Bernardo gives him some extra problems to deal with in midfield. That very quickly then leads to them activating stage 2 of their match plan, or plan B, or whatever. They take off Czerny for Igaman, and I thought, honestly, I couldn't believe that Neil McCann did this substitution, because Czerny, really, if they put Czerny on the ball more often, they would have scored more goals. I don't really have much doubt about that. And then Bajrami comes off for Hadji, who I thought was maybe in contention to start this one. And if memory serves me right, I think they switched sides. I think Igaman went on to the left. And Czerny, obviously, the water boy himself, was not too happy about that when he got to the dugout. And good, I'm glad that he got subbed off, because he was a threat. He was raging, in my opinion, because he knew if he got the ball another couple of times, he would have made something happen for them, because Scales was very good physically in this game. There was that kind of slippy box moment in the second half where he slipped and then Igaman slipped. And in that box as well, by the way, our keeper slipped taking a long ball, and I'm sure Kelly slipped for them in the first half. So I don't know if there was a wee bit of funny business going on with the watering of the grass before the game. But we then get into that stage of the match where the substitutions do happen. And I did think it was overdue to get Taylor off for Sloop. And Sloop was a player I thought could have started this game, and watching the way it did go, Sloop would have been way better to deal with Czerny than Taylor. And I think the worries I had about this game of the exploitation that could happen there didn't really come back to bite us in the bum, but Czerny had control of the pitch whenever he got on the ball. Raskin generally was penetrating through this side of the pitch as well, and I think Sloop would have done a lot better of a job as that defensive left back alongside Rap. You just kind of make that back four more kind of defensive, and earlier in the match maybe give Engels and McGregor a bit more licence to get higher up the ground. And again, we've been calling for this because of the substitutions, the bench and everything else we've got, but we get the return of Johnny Kenny, and I was so happy that he was getting on. Now, as I said at the tip-off, we've not been full strength for this game. We've not been full strength, I think, for any of these derbies in a good while, but I was really happy to see Kenny get these minutes, very high value minutes as well. He got the last 7 of regular time. There was a further 7 added on, so a nice 15-minute chunk of the match. Hadji comes off for them, injured, of course he does, for Bailey Rice, who again was maybe in contention to start this one, as they just kind of further shut up shop. For Danilo comes off injured for, Danilo comes on for the injured Diamande right at the very end. And ultimately the game kind of fizzles out for a good spell once all the substitutions are going on and everything like that. The cheerleader Barry Ferguson gets booked actually as well, which was a funny moment. But right at the death, and I'm talking about at the death, they've got a free kick. We managed to break away and counter-attack, and Dyson gets sent up the pitch. He gets one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and this was the most Kyogo thing I've ever seen Dyson do. Like, he tries to go round the goalkeeper. And, like, Dyson has had that season, right? So you cannot grudge him taking that decision. Like, I think you've seen his reaction right afterwards. He was so gutted he did. If he'd, like, Kenny could have been played in, but I think Yang, if you see the replays of it and stuff like that, like, Dyson in the first half when he's setting up Ida and like all the rest of it, Dyson even 2 weeks ago would have crossed that for someone else, and it felt like, I don't know, because the fans were in that corner as well, maybe he just thought, I've got this written in the stars, I'm going to skin this guy, empty net, and head my way over, and it's just not quite worked out for him. He tries to go round the keeper, he gets the bobble, which might have made it successful, but the bobble just didn't really fall for him, it fell much more for the defender. It gets cleared away from there. The last chance of the game goes a begging, and it's full time. It's one each. And again, there was a few opportunities where we could have won it. In the right at the end in the first period of the match as well, if we'd taken different sliding doors moments, that sort of thing. But I imagine Johnny Kenny, Dyson Maeda, Yang, any one of those guys had actually converted that chance last kick of the ball. It would have been throwback to the Edwards situation, and all the rest of it would have been absolutely amazing, because they were a good opponent in this game. They gave as good as you would expect them to in a derby match. And if we look at the player ratings coming out of the game, I think it's quite clear to see the Rangers players were a lot more active on the ball, controlled the tempo of the game much more. And ultimately, like, Cherny getting subbed off and all the rest of it, he's got a good reason to be upset. But I think, like, all things considered, like, it's not a bad result for us. I think Brendan Rodgers managed the game well. The substitutions made an impact on the match. They were well timed as well. And really, like, we were a threat the whole way through this game, despite probably conceding. Let's have a wee look at. Yeah, we conceded more chances, more big chances as well, more shots. And again, that's what I've been telling you guys. Like, Rangers don't want possession. We had enough possession where Rangers could have won this game. When Rangers get down to that 38% possession mark, they're really dangerous. If they'd only got 25% possession, 28%, I think we've seen in some games, that would have been the difference. They could have won this game here, But they did get big chances. They did get shots on target. Good goalkeeping performance, it must be said, from the goalkeeper. No major refereeing things coming out of it, but considering this is them, top gear, max strength, full power, like I say, we are very much depleted and kind of messing about for the most part, if we're being honest about it. It's, like I say, it's not a terrible result. Highest performing player on the pitch was Diamande, 96.4, and his assist on top of a triple-double, which means he made 2 tackles, a blocked cross, 9 duels won, only 3 lost, as well as 2 interceptions. Only 32 passes for him. He was a very effective midfielder, the most effective player in the game. Right behind him was Liam Scales, who came out of this game with a 72 rating out of 100. He picked up a wee double-double in this game. 10 effective clearances for the big man. 2 1 tackles, 2 block crosses, 2 blocks in general. 7 duels won, only 1 lost. Very physically present in the game. High pass count considering the match and all the rest of it. Only 5 missed passes. 4 of them were of his 5 possessions lost in this game. No attacking output from Big Scaldini. Surprisingly, in third place for this game is James Tavernier, who came out with, attacking wise, all the set pieces he takes, of course, like free kicks and corners, all that kind of stuff. But 7 duels won for him, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles, actually quite a solid defensive performance. And quite quietly, by the way, Connor Barron narrowly ahead of the Celtic players here. They got the 60s with 2 tackles, 2 duels and 4 interceptions, so like a good kind of defensive performance from him. I don't really remember him doing much in this game, but clearly like he was sweeping up stuff. He was being hard for us to get by and play against. Dyson Maeda's right behind him with his assist in this goal in this game for Adam Ida, the kind of chaos assist as it were. And again, Dyson wasn't really used in the first half. He was only really used in the second half for the most part. And yeah, this wasn't stellar performance from him. It wasn't certainly bad either, just a bit of a non-entity. Adam Ida gets a 60 for his goal, of course, but outside of that, 2 shots on target, 1 big chance missed. Jules lost 6, Jules won 0, which is very hard to read for a big strapping centre forward. 10 accurate passes, 4 missed passes, and yeah, not really much else going on for him. I think he did do some defending, by the way. Yeah, 2 effective clearances. He doesn't really get points for that as a forward, though, right enough. And then when you look at the Rangers players, there's a lot of 55s, 45s, that kind of thing. So a lot of these players are winning those duels that we're losing, and they're creating, like we looked at with the stats, more opportunities here. But in the short time he came on, like if we look at Arne Engels, he get rated in 60 minutes as a 40.3. Okay, in this match he was fouled and gave away a foul himself. 2 effective clearances, 3 duels won, 2 lost. So that's net 1. I've not looked at this before now, okay? 21 accurate passes, 7 passes missed, a bunch of 10 balls into the final third, which created most of our highlights, as it were, and then he had some set pieces and whatever to take. Bernardo played 27 minutes, and he got rated 43 out of 100 in this one. He won a contest, so that's like a dribble where he's like driven forward. He's had a ball go into the box himself without taking any set pieces, as well as 5 duels won, 2 lost, so that's +3. 12 accurate passes for him, 4 of them in the final third, 4 missed passes, 9 possession lost overall. But he's won a tackle, he's blocked a cross, he's made an effective clearance on top of that, no interceptions, just double checking. And he was fouled twice, didn't give away any fouls. And that's what I mean with Bernardo, where he's in amongst it, he's making things happen, he's stopping them. And yeah, he might not have that range of passing that Engels has or whatever, but I think he was better suited to this match and made a difference in the second half. Nothing really to say about Schlupp and Kenny, but we'll have a wee look at Kenny, see if he's getting anything interesting on the stats here. Dual success isn't great, but yeah, limited minutes, and I thought he was unlucky not to get maybe a little bit more involved. And I really think, like, looking at this game and kind of zooming out, my main kind of takeaways are, like, I think we just started one too many players that are, like, want to be possession dominant and want to stride across the pitch and really, like, live that, dominant setup. And when you've got a full team like Rangers here who are like a well-coiled spring, like I say, Neil McCann has gave them a good kind of route to goal to try and chase throughout this match. And like individually, these guys for Rangers, like if they play 50-50s, 1v1s, beat your man, all that kind of jazz, they're pretty capable in a lot of different areas. They're not like super dominant. It was a very close match, obviously, but it just being at home, them taking the first goal, it really played into their hands for the most part. And I think like Forrest and Ralston starting on one side of the pitch, and or Taylor starting at left back, I think these were the main, I don't want to say problem areas, but maybe missed opportunities for being a bit more solid. Like we had to play Ralston, so, and I get playing Forrest, he's chasing that goal as well, he's the most decorated player in club history. If Ida's ball to him was a little bit better, he gets one-on-one with Kelly, and I've got full confidence he would have finished it. But like, so often Forrest was on the ball, he wouldn't take his man on, he wouldn't go by him, and that's because he's good on the ball as well. He was very good deeper in the pitch at build-up play and stuff like that. If we have a quick look at his stats, 20 accurate passes, 9 of them in the final third, 2 missed passes. So for a winger, 2 missed passes, 10 possession losts through like Julian and stuff like that. He's used the ball well. He's not gave it away. He's never, but again, he's not really been the winger and asked the question of his opposition here. And I think that's what Yang just gives you in spades. So I think like Forrest could have easily been more effective in the second half from the bench, perhaps, especially when the game is tighter and he has that kind of nous. He has that kind of that veteran status, because in the first half, when we were targeting it down the right-hand side a lot more with Forrest, I know I've got Yang on here, but we were pinching Dyson in as like another forward, and we were almost at times playing Dyson off of Ida. This got kind of further highlighted in the second half, and we actually played it to Dyson more directly in the second half, of course. But in the first half, when we were breaking that 4-4-2 kind of shape off the ball and coming forward, we were focusing on the right, and we wanted Dyson in the box, of course, for finishing. And if in the second half, we've got Yang coming off and Forrest coming on. Forrest, if we're playing the ball to Dyson, Forrest is very good at coming into these areas later in the match for tap-ins and to lay someone else off and that sort of thing. So I think that's the only kind of opportunity missed or kind of like critique I have of the game itself. In terms of man of the matches and all that kind of stuff, I don't think there's any Celtic player that really jumped out. I thought Hatate was cool as a cucumber all the way through the game and was a bit unlucky to not maybe like get an assist or actually get a goal in this one with some of the opportunities that went and different bounces of the ball, different sequence of events, yada yada, all that good stuff. But yeah, I think Hatate and McGregor were both okay. I think McGregor missed a few more duels than he'd have liked to in this one, especially 1v1 with Raskin for how kind of highlighted it was in the game. I think there was a few opportunities where like him and Taylor tried to pull him down and they never really quite got there. So I hope they remember that for next year, because this is definitely a feature of the derby match that we always enjoy seeing, is those midfield battles, is those personalities, those leaders clashing, and ultimately we want to see our guys coming out on top. And yeah, I think Hatate is probably one of the few players that could really hold their head high coming out of this game. Looking forward to catching your comments down below, guys. On screen and now some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Let me know what your big takeaways were, thoughts and feelings from the match itself, where we go from here in terms of the derby, strengthening the squad, going on for the treble, all that good stuff, guys. Hail, hail, and won the hoops.